Hi, I'm Janet Party, lighting specialist here at Rejuvenation, and this morning we're welcoming Bungalow Company's Christian Gladue and his clients Janice and Paul in for a lighting consultation, and we're really excited to see what we can do for their beautiful house in Bend.
Great, nice to be here.
So where I typically start is asking lots of questions. I want to not impose my ideas of design on you, and I can already tell that you guys have very strong opinions, which makes my job a lot easier. But more importantly, I want to know how you're going to live in your home, how you're going to use the rooms, because that will really inform what kind of lighting that room should have. So typically if I'm out on a job site or in your home, we're going to walk and walk and walk and sit in different areas as if we were using the home. Like you were saying in your dining room, you don't want to include that sight line or limit how you can use the room. And it's a very important, probably the most focal point of lighting, so that's going to inform how we're going to do the rest of the space.
Well, this has been, working with Christian has been, he has such a great vision for this house, and it's lined up perfectly with our own, which is why we love working with him. But that's why I also want him here to talk about the lighting, because I think he's able to see everything in 3D a lot easier than I am in my own mind. But he also, just to stay with the style of the house and how you see the house coming together, I think it's nice to be able to have this discussion with how you know, Christian would also see the lighting working out for the house, which is important to us.
Where we are in the job is that their foundation's poured, where the joists are in, with some rough in. We've got to put the deck on today. So we still have some flexibility. So as opposed to waiting to the end when it's all framed, we can make sure this is framed lightly enough. We can put some blocking in. We're still at the point in the ceiling where we can adjust kind of the layout of the joist within a couple of inches without messing with the structural. We can say, oh, we know we have a fixture that needs to mount here. We can say, okay, Trevin, our great builder, we can say, start your layout 4 inches off, and that's going to let us center this. So it's really, I really think it's important to be at this point of the job talking about that. We've already talked about this with ducting, and we have talked about lighting in general, but getting to the specific fixtures is one of the places where I see people wait until finally the electrician's just hanging a wire out of the wall, going, go figure this out. So this is really important, and it continues to grow and become more specific as the house evolves.
Yeah, with this house, one of the things that we got some very good advice from Christian at the beginning, and we've heard from other people as well, is we've viewed it as something where we need to put together the team, because everything plays on everything else. Even the stuff that's very mundane, and I bore Janice with concrete work. But in some sense, the lights, even in the concrete, are tied together, because so bringing you in to talk about this gives us the flexibility if we need to change planes a little bit, or make some certain adjustments to how we do this particular opening. We got time to do that.
Yeah.
So, but once that's all laid down and we were to bring somebody in, their degrees of freedom and ours are very narrow. So this is, we're very much front loading all of our design work so that we have those options.
A more, I hate to use the word formal because we don't want it to be a formal house, but it is for our taste, a somewhat grand entryway with windows on one side, and then we hope to have cabinetry and hooks and bins for coats and hats, and it's at Sun River, so there'll be lots of winter clothing and gloves and hats and shoes and that kind of thing. But to have it look very open and welcoming and warm.
And sort of set the tone for the house.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's it, exactly.
We had kind of cheated and walked in the showroom and found a chandelier that has some craftsman element, but also has some unique and special designs to it. It's like a modern take on craftsman. So that would set the tone that, it suits the flavor of the house, but you're going to see some surprises as you go through. It's not going to be your typical everything square and lined up. So if that would have set the tone as you came in, we perhaps got that one kind of figured out.
I think so, yeah. And that, when you come in the front door, like Janice said, there'll be a very nice space that it's not just there's a bench, you jump down, you take your boots off, and you're all of a sudden in a great room. Instead, you come in, it gives you both time to catch your breath and get a sense of the house and take off your coat and your boots. But then you move through passage doors that are like the old-fashioned heavy doors. And so as you pass through there, whether those are being opened or whether they're already open, the two things that you'll see first are you'll see our fireplace, which has it's a modest size, but it's a really beautiful stone face to it. And you'll also get a sight line into the dining room through a cased opening. So I think one of the things we want to do in addition to functional lighting is we want to have people having sort of been warmed up by the entry room, figuratively and actually, come through and just have the sense of, boy, this is really an inviting place. Not so much, oh, I'm so impressed, but boy, I really want to move into that space and settle in.
Right, where the quality's been softened.
Right, exactly.
Well, so do you want the light to pull people in rather than, say, in the living space from the ceiling where you're flooding it? I'm seeing more lighting that pulls you in, like a lighting by the fireplace. Maybe not a light in the ceiling in the living room.
I think that's probably more likely, that we'd want just lamps and sconces or whatever you might suggest, but I don't see many occasions where we'd have an overhead center of the ceiling.
So that's not cozy in a living room. I see softer lighting. And then since it's so open, I actually see leaving a really nice light on in the kitchen. Because that gives such ambient light to that room where you don't feel like you're more comfortable and relaxed when the lighting is just not shining down on you.
I think every room in here has that too. It's every room is is kind of framed between each room, and then whatever the light is going on in the other room is affecting these rooms.
Exactly.
So it doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be a real direct hit. And there are some interesting things in the living room in terms of the way that we've pushed these cabinets in, the cabinets next to the flanking the fireplace in, and which I actually think is probably a pretty good opportunity for a sconce or something in there to kind of highlight that portion of it. The only ceiling fixture that I would kind of think about is maybe, and it isn't necessarily something we have to discuss today, but might be like something to highlight a piece of art over the fireplace,
That's a good point.
which would be.
I think that might happen, although I'm guessing that we're probably not. I think if you're going to highlight a piece of art, you want to have a piece of art that warrants highlighting. And I'm not sure.
Fresh out.
Right. And
Fresh out.
That's right. And maybe what we'll do instead is we'll have the lighting be the art. So
I like that.
I think that I think one of the things that we were thinking about and we would have space for would be above the fireplace having some sconces that do that same thing, which is they speak to the sense of the house, but they're somewhat understated. And we're using this is a conventional wood burning fireplace that will have a hammered steel floor on it that's a really beautiful, dark, almost looks like oil rub bronze, although it's steel. And maybe we can pick up in that something that reflects that pattern a little bit, and it's kind of a surprise to people.
Right. We walked through and we did find something that was a little heavier but not overbearing, had a hammered finish to it that I think would work perfect. And then would remain special and then not repeat that hammered look anywhere else.
Right.
So that could.
And while we have a craftsman style house, that might be, since the fireplace is always sort of the center of a craftsman home, that could be the place for more craftsmanly type fixtures that we were looking at, rather than something more transitional and modern or something.
Exactly. So I'm going to really stay true to that.
I feel like the making sure that you kind of develop this pattern of fixtures and language of fixtures through it, makes sense. And and finding that right finish that kind of ties them together is really nice. And I do like. I feel very strongly that using both fixtures and lamps, I think lamps are way underused. It's some of the lighting that really makes people feel intimate, and it really, kind of brings it all in
and
close.
Adds more texture and interest to it. To have,
and it's point of source.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like you're there and you're looking at it and you're like, I'm right here using this light. I'm not lighting a bunch of things that I don't want to highlight, or I don't want to be blinded by it, or
Right.
Yeah,
And
we-
what, well, I was going to say, one of the things that Christian had pointed out about the light fixture in the dining room, for instance, is we intend this space to be used not just as a dining room, but as a kind of a game, place to play board games and craft projects and that type of thing. We'll have an expandable table there. So Christian had pointed out early on the problem with trying to center a light over a table when the table is changing. So that's one of our challenges here, I think, is to come up with lighting for this room that will adjust to that use for the
And make it more flexible.
Right, because we don't intend that to be the sterile, formal dining room that people only enter, once a year or something.
Yeah, I really don't like that my dining room right now is really set up as a dining room, so that's one of the things I'm correcting. But I think that's one thing where Rejuvenation really shines is our ability to take a fixture and customize it, or take a group of pendants, we didn't even have to be the same pendant, and make a cluster, and either have Christian build you some kind of a canopy for it or a medallion, and create your own. So in the dining room, you could run it linearly, you could go in a circle, and have the pendants at different lengths, because you can't go too long in there if you want to keep it flexible.
Right.
So
yeah, there's a
you
lot of
can-
sight lines in here too. That's
Yeah.
that's one of the things that
Yeah.
if you're, and especially Paul's
Right.
tall guys, if you're standing here, you don't want to make this fixture about
Right.
not being able to see what's going on in the living room, or obscure that. So and it is kind of that expandable.
Right, so we could take the biggest challenge and make it maybe the most fun.
Well, I like to, we talked about this when we were going around of if we worked off of pendants here, not pendants that hang real low, like you think about maybe over a bar, but
Right.
pendants that just come off at different drops from the ceiling.
Right.
That would do two things. One is it would avoid that, we went to someplace and just, I need a hanging fixture and it's got 4 lamps on it and you're done. It would be much more interesting. At the same time, I hadn't really thought about this until you brought it up, but by doing different lengths, you could essentially break up the idea that there's one point under
Exactly.
which the table has to sit. And so as the table moved, you wouldn't get that sense of misalignment that would be so clear if you just had one lamp coming down. So it's a really interesting
You're not
possibility
saying
there.
here's the center of the room.
Right.
Right.
Break it up, especially if you maybe go longer, maybe if you avoid a circle, and the different lengths.
That's interesting, yeah.
We have this piece that we've been affectionately calling the sun bump on the
It took me a while to figure out what the sun bump was. I have one in my house actually too.
Okay.
Now I'm going to call it the sun bump.
But it's kind of, it's really reminiscent of an angled nook, but not really built-in furniture. And that's right off of this too. So I think it's interesting. We have the floor plan, but also the light is going to define the floor plan in here too.
Right.
Because I can feel this being a little more intimate in here and not being, it can benefit from the light from here, but doesn't have to be the same.
This is the spot that has its most important function is where Janice and I can get up in the morning and sit and have coffee and have just the right distance to catch up
Where
with
it's
each
cozy,
other.
you're not sitting across the table.
Right, exactly.
And that's why having a lamp here could be just like right in the way of trying to.
I think you need to move it to each side. It's going to block your beautiful view.
Oh,
So
sure.
It's
Okay.
gorgeous.
Good point. Yeah.
And
You mean my beautiful view of my wife?
Exactly what it
right.
Right.
yeah,
I
I
see
think
what
your
you're saying.
lights
Right,
need to be by the chairs and not in the center.
Okay.
So you can get closer together.
That's exactly. I like that. And is there? I'm just exploring exactly no idea. But is there any possibility to either work off this little section of wall or in the corner here that works for this, or is that not going to work?
It would kind of be easier to actually be in the space to see if you have enough room for a sconce there. It depends if there's enough to get a sconce where it doesn't just feel crowded.
Yeah, right. Just pinched in amongst the trim.
Pinched in. You don't want it to look pinched in. And it definitely, I think, needs lighting on either side of the chair, which would make it cozier. And
So this is the corner of the sunbelt. This is the cased opening. So from here to
oh,
here.
I have an idea. Come down from the ceiling
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, that's,
And then you're not impeding the window.
right.
Yep.
You can come down.
We don't have to worry about that being tight against
Yeah,
the
I
trim.
would do it, I would do
Yeah.
pendants.
So
right
something like
straight
in here,
down.
you mean?
And I
And you're
know
missing both windows.
just the pendant we need for that.
Oh, that would be the one. The
Yeah,
wild
the ones, there's the one that shows that has this
flower.
beautiful flower,
Yeah.
what do you call the
It's
part?
called a wildwood. It's I forgot the actual leaf.
And what do you call the piece that's against the ceiling?
The canopy.
The canopy,
It's a
okay.
beautiful leaf with lots of detailing. It's very craftsman in a new way.
Yeah, and then we'll have to talk about which of the shades we want to get, the colors
Right.
we want to get.
This one's pretty beautiful.
Oh, isn't that beautiful?
Isn't
Yeah,
it
that is
beautiful?
nice.
And that's
That is-
interesting because,
You would
I don't
never-
like it not lit.
Exactly.
I
I
would
would
Yeah,
never
like
have
it
yeah.
lit.
Yep.
And then
I'd have to grow on that one.
I didn't bring
Personally.
the one that's on it because there wasn't one over there, or just nice and
Oh,
clean.
that's pretty, yeah.
That's
and it
pretty.
actually really suits and balances
Yeah.
the fixture itself.
What are these different colors called?
These are art glass, and they're hand blown art glass. This is opal feather, but they are hand blown glass. This one, which was on here, is gorgeous. And this is. We'll try the next shade that we saw, which is beautiful. Actually,
that-
this one is probably more appropriate because if you're going to try to read in there,
That's what, I
I
think
think
that's
this
so
is
gorgeous.
it. That is just beautiful.
Yes.
You know, now that we have, I didn't care
Picture
for
it
it,
that
yeah,
way.
but once
Yeah.
we have a location for it, then it makes sense for me.
It does
to
make
consider.
sense.
This
And
is,
this really suits the colors that you've
Yeah.
been showing me.
Right.
well, and also it's incredibly flexible with colors.
Right.
And this, I think, is a great example of what we were talking about when we were first getting to know you, is that we don't want to, we're not trying to achieve something in which people come in and they go, oh my gosh, you have all this, craftsman-like stuff that I saw on house.com. But instead, the space just invites in, and then as people notice it,
They'll discover.
they move in and they see something like this as pendants in the corner there. I mean, how gorgeous is this? It's not going to blast its message out, but it'll just be sitting back there going, I'm pretty, you can see me, and I don't need to shout.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, I just love this piece.
It's a very confident light.
It
It
is,
is.
definitely,
Yes.
definitely.
Do you mind showing me this one
Yeah.
one more time? That is so beautiful.
I think Janice is going to need this in her dressing room.
That
There
is
you go.
exactly.
There we go. That's what I think. I think
Yeah.
that is more intimate
Yeah.
space.
Yeah, I just
It's
love the
beautiful.
color of
It's-
the.
it's your color.
Amber tones
Yeah,
in
that
it,
is
yeah.
true, yeah.
Now to the most important place in the house, the the pass-through bar from the kitchen into the into the seats that are there. And Janice said, whatever we have on this house, we have to have a place that you can hang your glass of wine.
Oh,
So-
wine.
So I can watch,
So,
Yeah.
so we've got this nice. This is one of the few curved accents in the language that we're using, and we were thinking of this in terms of something like a 4-inch slab of walnut that is just a beautiful accent piece. And the natural way or the typical way, I should say, to do this is with pendants that come off of the casing there. But we also have to be mindful of that line of sight, so we don't want to bring a curtain down on it. So, what do you think there?
Well, pendants are the most predictable thing. The other thing that we could do is actually take a pendant and mount it on either side of the bar.
What's interesting about this is you see a bar and immediately you think that's got to either have can lighting above it or pendants above it, because we got to have light on that bar. But actually, that's not a task-oriented space,
No, it's not.
and so it is kind of,
Yeah.
well, why do you need to have the lights all running? 4 pendants hanging down here so that everybody can see the little bits of appetizer and see the Genesis glass of wine is half empty. That's the only thing we need
The
lit.
glasses are always half full.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
So-
So that idea of lighting from the side, I like
side.
that.
It's kind of really like a restaurant. When
Yeah.
you go
Yeah,
to a
yeah,
bar
yeah.
in a restaurant, that is not that is an intimate space. It's not over.
Right.
Right.
It actually adds a little bit of theater to it almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's, Paul's gonna be on display in the kitchen.
That's right. Yeah.
So then, that way when you move into the kitchen, now you can have a central kitchen fixture that's not going to fight with the pin
Yeah,
Yeah.
Right.
So
right.
now
Yeah.
you've
Well, I like this.
uncluttered all of that,
Mhm.
and now you can have
Yeah.
something kind of drop
Yeah.
down just in sight
Yeah.
of the kitchen.
I could also see that being like one of those lights that talking about leaving the kitchen light on. But you could this could also be a light, like almost
Oh,
I would
almost a night
always
light.
yeah.
leave
You know,
those
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, yeah,
that
that's
would be
great.
that.
Because that's going to throw a soft light back and a
Yeah.
soft light forward.
Yeah.
Eureka.
Eureka! We're solving some things. I like that idea.
Well, I don't think I ever would have come up with that as an idea, and I really like it. I think it's, because I've been concerned about getting all these art glass things right in the middle of what we've really tried hard to keep an open view.
Yeah.
And when we look at the 3D models, it is really beautiful to be sitting in the
Yeah.
kitchen and looking out.
Well, the whole passage through, we just got last week, we got the first 3D models that you can move through that have the interior trim and stuff, and the whole flow, no matter where you go, you have interest and sight lines, and they're not all just absolutely, you have to stand here and see that. It's just got a great flow on the inside. So
So
this
we
is,
don't want to ruin that.
yeah, so this is terrific. That sounds great. Well, I think we got there. Our first floor just wired, so to
Yes.
speak. It's been enlightening.
Right. Oh, you're fired.
And then we'll look forward to coming back and working on the upstairs.
Well, I'm so happy to have you. It's a lot of fun. I'd actually like to come down and see your house.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think part of my job that I can't believe I get paid to do is taking things from concept to completion. It's so satisfying to see, just drawing on paper and walking through. Because most of the projects I see are early construction, and then I get to go back later and see everything realized.
Yeah.
Well, if you're up for a trip to Sun River, we'd love to have you over as the walls are going up and you can get a better
Yeah.
sense
We
of
promise you fire, soup, and
And
wine, and wine through the pass-through.
I'm on my way.
Great,
Well, thanks very much.
Thank
Well,
very
thank you
much.
so much for coming, and I'm sure we'll be continuing on.
great.
Thanks, guys.